In this short video lecture, we'll discuss about TCP round trip time and how TCP timeout is decided. Till now, we have been saying that when a TCP does not receive an acknowledgement within a particular time frame, when the timer goes out, when the timeout happens, it assumes that the packet has got lost and it retransmits the packet. Now, how does it decide what is a timeout? How does it decide when the timer times out? How does it decide that particular value? And the other question is that timer value a fixed constant value or is it a variable value? Now, to discuss about whether it's a fixed value or whether it's a dynamic value, you should be very clear that it should be a dynamic value and it cannot be a fixed value because this timeout, this timeout basically depends on the round trip time, and the round trip time will vary depending on the traffic conditions of the network. That means we know what a round trip time is. The round trip time is the time taken for a packet to go from one end to another and the acknowledgement coming back from the other side to the original sender. That means if say let's say it this way, let's say that this is a sender and this is the receiver. So A sends a small packet to B. It takes a particular amount of time for this packet to go from A to B, and then an acknowledgement comes back from B to A. The total time taken, this total time is the round trip time. This is how we have defined round trip time, the RTT. Now obviously when does a packet is retransmitted? When the timer goes out, when it times out, and this timeout should obviously depend on this RTT. So it should be obvious that the timer value should somehow reflect this RTT. So it should be some value which is slightly bigger than the RTT, because it knows that this is the time taken for a packet to go and its acknowledgement to come back. And so if an acknowledgement has not come back within that particular time, then obviously it should resend that packet, assuming that the packet has got lost because no acknowledgement is received till now. Now obviously this RTT is not a fixed value. If say there is no congestion, there is no traffic in the network, is there a very suitable path from A to B, then the time taken for this packet to go from here to here and acknowledgement coming back, this would be a very small time. But if say there is a huge congestion in the network, there is a huge traffic, then obviously the time will be a bigger time. So the round trip time cannot be a fixed value. Now if my timer value is dependent on this RTT, and because RTT is a variable value, then obviously my timer value should also be variable. So we'll be discussing how we calculate this timeout, how do we decide what value we should give to a timer based on the round trip time. So the first question is how to set the TCP timeout value. Obviously, the TCP timeout value should be longer than the RTT, somewhat longer than the RTT. Now, we have seen that the RTT varies. The RTT varies depending on different traffic condition. Now, if our timeout value is too short, what will happen? Timeout will happen prematurely. So if say our RTT is say 50 milliseconds, say if our RTT is 50 milliseconds. Now if our timer value is too short, say I have kept the timer value at 30 milliseconds. That means if an acknowledgement does not come within 30 milliseconds, I will retransmit the packet. This is a too short timer value compared to the RTT. So if my timeout value is too short, then my timer will go out prematurely. Before the acknowledgement arrives, what will happen? My timer will go out and I will unnecessarily retransmit a packet, and the packet may not be lost. It is already in the network. The acknowledgement has not arrived because my RTT is 50 milliseconds, but in 30 milliseconds my timer goes out because I have chosen a short timeout value. So my timer value cannot be too short and it cannot be too long also. if my RTT is 50 millisecond, I should not be choosing a timer value say something like 80 millisecond. It's a much larger value than the RTT. What will happen? That at 50 millisecond, I know that RTT is 50 millisecond and no acknowledgement is coming say after 50 millisecond, 51 millisecond, 52 millisecond, then I can safely assume that the packet has got lost. And if I'm waiting up till 80 millisecond, then I'm unnecessarily waiting. I know I'm definitely the packet has got lost because my RTT is 50 millisecond. If at least the acknowledgement does not come after say 55 millisecond or say even 60 millisecond, I should be safely assuming that the packet has got lost. But I have kept my timer value at a very big value, something like 80 millisecond compared to my normal RTT of 50 millisecond. Then this too big value will cause a slow reaction to a segment loss. So my timer value should not be too short compared to the RTT or should not be too long compared to the RTT. It should be somehow bigger than the normal RTT. But again, remember, RTT is a variable value. Now the first thing is I should measure my RTT. Because I know that my timeout values is dependent on the RTT, I should first measure RTT. Now do I measure my RTT value for every packet? Should the sender measure the round trip time for every packet it has sent? No, it will not measure the round trip time for every packet. Clear? So it will measure the round trip time for certain packets only. Say it is second packet 0, packet 1, packet 2, packet 3. Say it is sending packet like this. Clear? Now it is not that the sender will measure the RTT for each packet. It is not saying, we're not saying that it will measure the RTT for packet number 0 and again for packet number 1, for packet number 2, packet number 3. It will not do that. It will measure the RTT for certain packets. Say it measures the RTT in packet number 2, then it measures the RTT for packet number say 7, it measures the RTT for packet number 10. So it will measure the round trip time for particular sample packets. So that particular RTT which it measures for those measurements are denoted by sample RTT. Clear? So whenever we are measuring the RTT, it is a sample RTT measurement. So we are measuring the RTT for certain samples. We are not measuring for every packet, we are measuring for certain packets, certain sample packets, and we are denoting it by sample RTT. First thing is clear. So what is sample RTT? Sample RTT is measured. You know how it is measured. Simply start a timer when the packet is sent and close the timer when the acknowledgement arrives. The total time elapsed is the RTT. So this RTT is measured for certain samples and this is known as sample RTT. Clear? So sample RTT is measured for particular segments which starts from the transmission time until the acknowledgement is received. Now sample RTT is never measured for retransmissions. Now this is an important point, and you should think and you should be able to answer yourself why this RTT is not measured for retransmitted packet. They are only measured for fresh packets. So first thing, we have measured RTT for certain samples. So say we have a graph like this. Say we have a graph where the x-axis shows the time. Clear? So the x-axis shows this time. So we have measured the RTTs for certain samples. Say we have measured the RTT for certain samples. So say it takes this amount of time. This is the RTT value. Next we measured for a sample here and this is its RTT, the round trip time. Clear? Then we have measured for another sample. Say this is this much. And again for another, say this much. So say these are sample RTTs for the samples where we have measured the round trip time. So these are the sample measurements. Clear? Now I know that my timeout value should be based on this round trip times. But should my timeout value depends on this individual RTT? Say I have measured at this instant and now this RTT is of a very big value. Say this is around 80 milliseconds. Previously say it was 40 milliseconds and the previous measurement of RTT was 40 milliseconds, and for this sample it turns out to be 80 milliseconds. Should I immediately change my timer value to be 80 milliseconds? And say next moment this goes to be 30 milliseconds. Should I change my timer value to 30 milliseconds? That means should I change my timeout value based on my current sample RTT? The answer should be no, because it may happen that due to certain conditions this RTT was found to be of a large value, and because of good conditions the RTT, the sample RTT of this sample was found to be of a low value. So we should not exactly base our timeout value on this sample RTT. Now this sample RTT will vary. We need a smoother value. Clear? We need a smoother value. We need to smooth out this particular graph. How do we do it? Obviously, we have to apply another function. Clear? We need to perform certain statistical function to smooth out. Say if we may take out the average of all these values. We may take weighted average. So different scenarios we can create. So what we do is we estimate something known as estimated RTT. So we calculated a value which is shown as estimated RTT. So we have the sample RTT. So in this graph you see these values are sample RTTs, and this pink graph, this is an estimated RTT. So this estimated RTT smoothens out this curve. So how is estimated RTT calculated? It is calculated using this particular expressions. Look at this expression, 1 minus alpha multiplied by the previous estimated RTT plus alpha multiplied by the sample RTT, the current sample. Clear? Now this is a weighted average. We are not taking the simple average. We are taking the weighted average. What is the meaning of weighted average? We have assigned a particular weight. Now if you look at it, we have assigned weight to the sample RTTs, and again we have assigned a weight to the previous estimated RTT also. Clear? Now to whom we have given more weight? To which value we have given more weightage? To the previous values, estimated values, or my current values? Obviously we should know that we should give more weight to my current value, and my the influence of the previous values goes out exponentially. It goes down exponentially. So this particular weight we have assigned this weight alpha to the sample RTT. We have assigned 1 minus alpha to the previous estimated RTT, and this is a graph to a RTT to a particular website. Say this is the RTT to this particular website. First these sample RTTs are calculated, and then we have estimated a different function, estimated RTT, using this particular expression. Now this alpha is a constant, and currently we use this value 0.125. The current standards of TCP use this value 0.125 for the value of alpha. Clear? So this should be clear. So say at the beginning we have say first there is the estimated RTT for starting value is 0. Clear? So say if we have measured the sample RTT for a first sample, say it turns out to be say 20 milliseconds. Just for an example, my first sample RTT is say 20 milliseconds. So what would be my estimated RTT? My estimated RTT for my first sample is, because first value of estimated RTT is 0, this part will go out. So my first value, my first estimated RTT would be alpha is 0.125 multiplied by 20 millisecond. So my first estimated RTT, so I have my first sample RTT, and based on my first sample RTT I have estimated my estimated RTT. Next, say I have again measured my sample RTT. Now say it comes out to be 25 millisecond. Clear? Now what will be my new estimated RTT? My new estimated RTT will be 1 minus alpha multiplied by my previous estimated RTT, whatever estimated RTT I have previously calculated, plus alpha multiplied by my current sample. My current sample is 25 millisecond. Clear? And I have a new value of estimated RTT. Then again say after some time I measure the RTT of another sample, and assume that the RTT, the sample RTT, turns out to be 22 milliseconds. So again I have a new estimated RTT. What will be a new estimated RTT? Again 1 minus alpha multiplied by my previous estimated RTT, whatever I have calculated in my previous step, again plus alpha multiplied by my current sample RTT, which is 22 milliseconds. So this is how my estimated RTT is calculated. Clear? Now I know that my round trip time, my smoothened RTT is this one. So my timer timeout value should actually reflect this. But again, remember, this has been averaged. The actual value was this. So there is a deviation between my actual sample RTT and my estimated RTT. So there is a deviation. Now this deviation may be large, this deviation may be small. Clear? So what's the meaning of deviation? That means, say my sample RTT are almost constant. Say assume that my sample RTTs are almost constant. They do not vary much. Clear? Say I have my sample RTTs are like this. They are almost constant. 20 millisecond, 21 millisecond, again 20 millisecond, again 22 millisecond, again 21 millisecond. They are relatively constant. So my estimated RTT would also be some mostly constant. So my deviation would not be much. So my deviation would also be almost constant. But if my sample RTT have a huge deviation, some have very small value, some have very large values, again some other value, again a very small value, and again a small value, then the the deviation between my estimated RTT and my sample RTT will be huge. Now this should be obvious that if I have a large deviation, then my timeout value should be estimated RTT, then some value to account for that deviation. Clear? My timeout value should obviously based on this estimated RTT plus certain safety margin. I take certain safety margin which is added to my estimated RTT. Now what should be the value of my safety margin? If my variation is large, then my safety margin should also be large. Clear? And if my variation is smaller, there is very limited variation, like the previous example where it is almost constant, then my safety margin should also be of a small value. So we again measure another value known as deviation RTT, DEV RTT. Clear? And this is given by this particular expression. So deviation RTT is measured using this expression 1 minus beta multiplied by deviation RTT plus again beta multiplied by sample RTT minus estimated RTT. Again this is another weighted measurement. So we have assigned weight of beta and typically we take the value of beta as 0.25. Clear? It's the same process, it's measured in the same process. So we have our sample RTT value, we have our estimated RTT value, and using these values we create our deviation RTT. So our final timeout interval, the timer value which we put in our timer is given by the estimated RTT plus we take 4 times of this deviation. So this is the safety margin we take based on certain statistical measurement. People have come out with this particular safety margin 4 multiplied by the deviation RTT we have calculated. So this is how we put the timeout value in our timer. So this timeout value is a variable value which keeps changing depending on my round trip time. I measure my round trip time on certain samples based on the sample RTT measurement. I measure an estimated RTT to smoothen out the curve, and then based on the deviation, I measure a parameter to account for this deviation, and based on that I finally decide my timeout interval which I calculate as estimated RTT plus 4 multiplied by deviation RTT. Clear? So you should be able to given different values, if you calculate yourself these round trip time, you should be able to find out what should be your timeout interval at this current point of time. Please try this problem. So you are given 5 sample RTT values. Suppose that you have 5 measured sample RTT values. This C section 3.5.3 this basically refers to your textbook. So this particular topic timeout is discussed in this particular section of your textbook. So this C section 3.5.3 is referring to textbooks. So we are given 5 sample RTTs, 106 milliseconds, 120 milliseconds, 140 milliseconds, 90 milliseconds, and 115 milliseconds. First, you have to compute the estimated RTT. You already know the expression, so you can calculate the estimated RTT after each of the sample RTT values obtained. So every time the sample RTT is taken, you should estimate the estimated RTT. It is given that the value of estimated RTT was 100 milliseconds just before the first of these 5 samples were obtained. That means when you calculate the first estimated RTT, so your first sample RTT is 106 milliseconds. So when you calculate the estimated RTT, the previous estimated RTT was 100 milliseconds. It's already given. So you have a value of a previous estimated RTT value. So this should be a fairly simple example. So you have to calculate the estimated RTT based on the sample RTT, and also you have to calculate the deviation RTT. And based on the deviation RTT, you have to compute the TCP timeout interval. Do this as a homework, and also answer the questions I have asked during the video lecture, that why RTT is not measured for retransmitted packet. They are always measured for fresh packet. They are never measured for retransmitted packet. This you should be able to think and answer yourself. So that's it for today. Today we have discussed about how timeout value is calculated. So we are left with one more topic of TCP. So in the subsequent lecture, we'll discuss about TCP congestion control. Goodbye for today.